The cruise line tells you to arrive early, get there as soon as the terminal opens. They say, beat the crowds, be first on the ship. Thousands follow that advice every sailing, and it creates the very bottleneck they were trying to avoid. I watched this happen for 26 years. My name is Carol Brennan. I worked guest services aboard cruise ships, starting at a Caribbean front desk in my 20s and finishing as a guest services manager on world-class vessels. I retired at 62 and did what everyone said I never would. I started cruising as a passenger. I have taken more than 40 voyages since. The terminal has fixed capacity, so many security lanes, so many check-in stations, so many chairs in the waiting area. The cruise line assigns you a staggered arrival window for a reason. When you arrive before your time, you do not board faster. You wait outside in a line with no facilities, no seating, no air conditioning, while the terminal processes the people whose windows have actually opened. The busiest crush happens between noon and 2 in the afternoon, when most passengers choose to arrive because most passengers believe early means better. The final hour of boarding is often nearly empty. I am going to share 27 things I learned from the other side of the desk that change how you board. Some will save you hours. Others will save you from mistakes that follow you for the entire cruise. The first thing to understand is how the porter system actually works. The porters at the curb do not work for the cruise line. They work for the port itself. When you hand your suitcase to a porter at the terminal entrance, that bag is tagged and placed onto a cart with dozens of others. The porter transports it directly to the ship, where it is loaded into the cargo hold. From there, crew members sort it by deck and cabin number and deliver it throughout the afternoon. That entire chain takes several hours. I have seen passengers board at 11:30 in the morning and not receive their checked luggage until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. The ship does not wait for your bags to arrive before letting you onto the vessel. The two processes run in parallel, and the luggage process is slower. This is why your carry-on matters. You will be on the ship for hours before your suitcase reaches your cabin. If you need medication, you need it in your hand. If you want to swim or eat lunch by the pool, you need your swimsuit with you. If you want to change out of the clothes you wore through the terminal, you need that second outfit in the bag you are holding. Plan for a 3 to 4 hour gap between stepping onto the ship and seeing that suitcase again. Keep anything you cannot wait 4 hours for in the bag that stays on your shoulder. Your arrival window is not a suggestion. It is a capacity management system, and it exists because the terminal has limits. A cruise ship terminal can only process so many people at once. There are fixed security lanes, fixed check-in counters, and fixed square feet in the waiting area. The cruise line assigns staggered windows, 10 to 11, 11 to 12:30, 1 to 3, because that is how you move 4,000 passengers through a space built for 800 at a time without creating chaos. When you arrive before your window opens, you wait outside. There is no seating, there is no air conditioning, there are no restrooms you can access until you are inside the building, and you are not allowed inside until your assigned time begins. I have watched people stand in a Florida parking lot in July because they believed arriving at 9 in the morning would get them onto a ship that does not start boarding until 11:30. The busiest period at any terminal is noon to 2. That is when most passengers arrive because most passengers ignore their assigned windows and choose a time that feels safe. The result is a crush at security, a line that snakes through the building, and wait times that stretch past an hour. The final hour of boarding is often nearly empty. I have walked through terminals at 3 in the afternoon and seen more staff than passengers. The people who arrive late do not wait. They move through security in minutes, check in without a line, and board immediately. Arriving early does not make you first. It makes you early to wait. The passengers who board smoothly are the ones who arrive when the terminal is ready for them. Online check-in opens 30 days before your sailing. It closes 48 hours before departure. Missing it changes your entire boarding experience. When you complete online check-in, you upload your passport or birth certificate, answer the required questions, select your arrival time, and receive your boarding documents. The cruise line processes all of this before you ever leave your house. When you arrive at the terminal, your information is already in the system. Security scans your documents, the check-in agent verifies your identity, and you are handed your SeaPass card. The whole interaction takes 2 or 3 minutes. When you do not complete online check-in, you do it manually at the terminal. You stand in a different line, a slower line, and fill out forms by hand while a staff member enters your information into the system one field at a time. I have seen manual check-in take 20 minutes per passenger. If there are 3 or 4 people ahead of you, you are standing there for over an hour before you even reach security. Missing online check-in also means you do not get to choose your arrival window. The cruise line assigns you one, and it may not align with your flight or your plans. Some passengers wait until the week before sailing to begin online check-in. By then, the best arrival windows are gone. The 1 to 3 slot that avoids the noon crush is full. You are left with 10 in the morning, which means waiting outside, or 3:30 in the afternoon. Start the process the day the window opens. 30 days before departure, the email arrives. Open it that afternoon. It takes 15 minutes to complete, and those 15 minutes determine whether you spend 30 minutes boarding or 2 hours in a manual check-in line. Check-in begins at 10 or 11 in the morning, depending on the cruise line and the port. Boarding begins at 11:30. Those are two different things. Check-in is the process that happens inside the terminal. You pass through security, present your documents, receive your SeaPass card, and wait in the holding area until your group is called. Boarding is the moment you walk across the gangway and step onto the ship. The cruise line does not control when check-in opens, the port does, but they do control when passengers are allowed onto the vessel. Even if you complete check-in at 10:15, you are not boarding at 10:15. You are sitting in a waiting area with several hundred other people who also completed check-in early, and all of you are waiting for the same announcement. The ship opens in priority order. Suite guests board first, then passengers with high-level loyalty status, then passengers who need mobility assistance, then everyone else, row by row. I have watched passengers stand in line at 10 in the morning, convinced that being first through security would get them onto the ship ahead of everyone else. It does not. They check in quickly, receive their SeaPass cards, and then sit in a chair for an hour and a half while suite passengers who arrived at 11:15 walk directly onto the ship ahead of them. If you are not in a suite and you do not have high-level status, standing in line at 10 does not buy you anything except time in a waiting area. You will board when your group is called, and your group is not called until the ship is ready to move passengers in an organized sequence. Staggered boarding keeps the flow steady. When your group is called, you walk onto a ship where the previous group has already dispersed. The hallways are clear, the elevators are available. You find your cabin, drop your carry-on, and start your cruise without fighting through a bottleneck. Arriving early to check in does not get you onto the ship early. It gets you checked in early. The ship opens when the ship opens, and no amount of standing in line changes that. From the moment you step out of your car at the terminal to the moment you unlock your cabin door, the process takes 30 to 60 minutes when your paperwork is complete, your documents are in order, and you arrive during your assigned window. I timed this across dozens of sailings. Security takes 5 minutes. Check-in takes 2 to 3 minutes if you completed online check-in in advance. The wait in the holding area depends on your group, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 40. But once your group is called, you walk onto the ship, navigate to your cabin, and you are done. 30 to 60 minutes, curb to cabin. What slows it down is predictable. Incomplete forms, wrong documents, passengers who printed their boarding pass but forgot their passport, passengers who brought a driver's license and a utility bill instead of a birth certificate, passengers who arrived at 9:45 for an 11:30 window and are now standing in the sun wondering why the terminal is not open yet. Manual check-in adds 15 to 20 minutes. Arriving outside your window adds 30 minutes to an hour. Missing a required document sends you back to your car or to a copy shop somewhere in the port district while your family waits inside. The difference between a smooth boarding and a frustrating one is not luck. It is whether you completed online check-in 30 days ago, whether you have your passport in your hand when you reach the counter, and whether you arrived during the time the cruise line told you to arrive. Every passenger must complete a health questionnaire before boarding. This is not optional. It is a federal requirement tied to norovirus prevention and contagious illness screening, and the cruise line will not issue your CPAS card until you have answered every question on that form. Most cruise lines let you complete it during online check-in. Some lines require you to complete it within 72 hours of departure. A few still hand you a paper form at the terminal check-in counter. The questions are straightforward. Have you experienced vomiting or diarrhea in the last 24 hours? Do you have a fever? Have you been in contact with anyone diagnosed with a contagious illness in the past 2 weeks? Are you currently taking antibiotics for an infection? If you answer no to all of these, you move forward. If you answer yes to certain questions, you are pulled aside. A medical officer reviews your answers. They may take your temperature. They may ask follow-up questions. In some cases, they will clear you to board. In other cases, they will not let you onto the ship. I have seen passengers turned away at the terminal because they admitted to having diarrhea that morning and thought it was not serious enough to matter. The cruise line does not take chances with gastrointestinal illness. One sick passenger in an enclosed environment with 4,000 others can trigger an outbreak that shuts down entire decks. Fill the form out honestly. If a medical officer clears you, you board. If they do not, you are too sick to sail anyway. Embarkation closes before the ship leaves the dock. This is not a cruise line policy. It is a Coast Guard requirement, and it is federal law. The ship may still be tied to the pier. You can see it from the parking lot. The gangway is still connected. None of that matters. If you arrive after the cutoff time, you are not boarding. I watched this happen more times than I can count. A passenger rushes through the terminal doors 10 minutes after embarkation closed, out of breath, dragging luggage, holding up their boarding pass like it is a ticket that grants them passage no matter when they arrive. It does not. The Coast Guard mandates that all passengers must be aboard and accounted for before the ship is cleared to depart. Once that manifest is finalized and submitted, no one else gets on. The cutoff is usually 60 to 90 minutes before the scheduled departure time. If your ship is set to leave at 4 in the afternoon, embarkation closes between 2:30 and 3. The cruise line prints this time on your documents. It is in your boarding confirmation email. It is in the app. Departure is when the ship leaves. Embarkation is when boarding ends. Those are two completely different moments, and the gap between them is the buffer the Coast Guard requires for the crew to finalize the manifest, complete safety checks, and prepare the vessel to sail. I have seen passengers arrive 15 minutes before departure and assume they had plenty of time. They did not. Embarkation had closed 30 minutes earlier. The crew turned them away at the door. The ship left and they went home. The cruise line does not make exceptions. The Port Authority does not make exceptions. The Coast Guard does not make exceptions. You miss the cutoff, you miss the ship. Arrive with at least 4 hours between your flight landing and your ship's departure. 6 hours is better. If your ship leaves at 4, be at the terminal no later than 1. That gives you margin for delayed flights, traffic, a flat tire, a GPS that takes you to the wrong terminal, and still gets you aboard with time to spare. The muster drill used to be the part of embarkation everyone dreaded. You stood in a crowded assembly area, hot, shoulder to shoulder with 100 other passengers, while a crew member read safety instructions for 30 to 45 minutes. It was required by maritime law, and it was miserable. That has changed. Most cruise lines now use e-muster or a virtual muster drill. You watch a safety video on your phone or on the television in your cabin. It takes 10 to 15 minutes. You do it at your own pace, in your own space. After you finish the video, you are not done. You still have to go to your muster station in person. When you arrive at your muster station, a crew member scans your CPAS card. That scan confirms you completed the video and that you physically located the place you are supposed to go if the ship has an emergency. It takes 30 seconds. If you do not complete this step, your CPAS card stops working. The system flags you as non-compliant with the muster drill requirement and your card is locked. You cannot charge anything to your room. You cannot get on or off the ship at ports. You cannot use the card to open your cabin door. I have seen passengers discover this at dinner when they tried to order a drink and the system rejected the charge. They had to walk back to guest services, confirm they completed the muster drill, get their card reactivated, and return to the restaurant. Do the video as soon as you are settled in your cabin, then walk to your muster station and get your card scanned. The whole process takes 15 minutes. Your checked luggage is somewhere between deck 3 and deck 9. It left the curb 2 hours ago. That bag will arrive at your cabin when it arrives, probably mid-afternoon, possibly later, and there is nothing you can do to speed up the process. In the meantime, you are on the ship. Your cabin is ready. The pool deck is open. The buffet is serving lunch. People are already in swimsuits, sitting by the pool with drinks in their hands, and you are standing there in jeans and a sweater because everything you need is in a suitcase you cannot access. Walk through the Leto deck at 1 in the afternoon, and half the passengers are still in their boarding day clothes. Long pants, closed-toe shoes, jackets they wore through the air-conditioned terminal. They are sitting by the pool fully dressed, waiting for their luggage to show up, watching other passengers swim because those passengers packed a carry-on that actually prepared them for the gap between boarding and bag delivery. The first thing you need in that carry-on is a swimsuit, not in your checked luggage, in the bag on your shoulder. If you want to swim or sit by the pool on your first afternoon, you need that swimsuit within reach the moment you step onto the ship. The second thing is your medications, all of them. Prescription medications, over-the-counter medications, anything you take daily or might need in an emergency. Do not pack these in checked luggage. The third thing is one full change of clothes, not just a swimsuit, a complete outfit, shirt, pants, underwear, socks if you wear them. You wore one set of clothes through the terminal. Those clothes are now wrinkled and warm. You will want to change. The fourth thing is your phone charger. You used your phone to check in online. You used it to pull up your boarding pass. You used it to take photos as you walked onto the ship. By mid-afternoon, your battery is at 30% and your charger is in a bag you do not have. The fifth thing is any toiletry you cannot go 4 hours without. Face wash, contact lens solution, prescription creams, anything medical or personal that you use daily. The carry-on is not about packing for the cruise. It is about packing for the gap between boarding and bag delivery. That gap is real. It happens on every sailing, and the passengers who prepare for it are the ones sitting by the pool in swimsuits at 1 in the afternoon while everyone else is still in their terminal clothes waiting. The moment you step into your cabin, before you unpack a single item, you need to check 5 things. Not later, not after lunch. Right now, while you still have time to report a problem and have it fixed. Start with the safe. Open it, close it, lock it with a code you will actually remember, then unlock it again. The safe is where you will store your passport, your credit cards, any cash you brought. If that safe does not lock properly, or if it jams, or if the keypad does not respond when you press the buttons, you need to know that now. Check every outlet in the room. Plug your phone charger into the outlet by the bed. Does it work? Try the outlet by the desk. Try the one in the bathroom. Some cabins have outlets that look functional but deliver no power. Others have outlets that trip the breaker the moment you plug something in. Turn on the shower. Let it run for 30 seconds. Watch the water pressure. Is it strong or is it a trickle? Does the temperature adjust when you move the handle or does it stay lukewarm? Does water pool around your feet because the drain is slow or does it flow out the way it is supposed to? A weak shower is not something you tolerate for 7 days. It is something you report on day 1. If you have a balcony, check the door lock. Step outside, close the door behind you, and make sure it latches. Then try to open it from the outside. Some balcony doors do not latch properly. The wind catches them, they swing open, and your cabin is now accessible to anyone walking along the deck. Check the air conditioning. Is the room cold or is it stuffy? Can you adjust the temperature, or is the control panel unresponsive? Cabins on cruise ships are small, and if the air conditioning does not work, that room becomes unbearable by the second night. The difference between a maintenance request that gets handled and one that gets logged and forgotten is timing. On embarkation day, the ship is not yet full of passengers with problems. Guest services is staffed and ready. Maintenance has time to respond. By day 5, that window has closed. Guest services is swamped. Every passenger who ignored a problem on day 1 is now standing in line, frustrated. Report problems now, not tomorrow. A 5-minute check when you first walk in can save you from 7 days of frustration over something that could have been fixed in an hour if you had just said something on day 1. Once your cabin is checked and any issues are reported, while the hallways are still quiet and half the passengers are unpacking or eating lunch by the pool, you need to walk this ship, not tomorrow, right now. Start with your muster station. You watch the video. You know the deck number and the zone letter. Now you need to know how to get there from your cabin without consulting a deck plan or asking a crew member for directions. Walk from your door to that muster station. Count the turns. Notice the landmarks, the elevator bank, the stairwell, the painting on the wall that marks the halfway point. In an emergency, you will not have time to figure this out. Next, find the medical center. It is usually on a lower deck near the front or middle of the ship. You do not need it now. You might not need it all week. But if you twist an ankle on formal night or wake up at 3 a.m. with chest pain, you will need to know exactly where it is without stopping to read signs or ask someone who is just as disoriented as you are. Locate guest services. This is the desk where you resolve problems, ask questions, make reservations, and handle anything that requires a crew member's attention. It is almost always on a main deck near the atrium or the central elevator bank. On embarkation day, the line is short. By day 3, it stretches 20 people deep. Find your dining room. If you book traditional dining with an assigned seating time, you have a specific restaurant, a specific table, and a specific time slot. Walk there now. Find the entrance. Note the deck number. Look at the layout. This is not sightseeing. This is preparation. You are building a mental map of a place you will live for the next week, and that map is what turns a confusing, overwhelming vessel into a space you know. Walk the ship now. 20 minutes, that is all it takes. Your cabin to your muster station, your cabin to the medical center, your cabin to guest services, your cabin to your dining room, the pool deck, the buffet, the main theater. Specialty dining reservations open the moment you board. So do spa appointments. So do shore excursions. All of it is bookable from the app or from the guest services kiosk in the atrium, and all of it fills fast. I have watched this happen on every sailing. Passengers board at 11:30. They drop their bags in the cabin, walk to the buffet, eat lunch by the pool, unpack their suitcase when it finally arrives, take a nap, shower, get dressed for dinner, and then, around 6 or 7 at night, they open the app and realize the Italian restaurant they wanted to try has no availability for the rest of the week. The spa has one opening left at 8 in the morning on the last sea day. The shore excursion they were excited about has been sold out since 2 in the afternoon. This is not bad luck. It is predictable. Thousands of passengers are trying to book the same limited number of slots, and the people who book first are the ones who get what they wanted. Specialty dining is the first thing that disappears. Most ships have 2 or 3 specialty restaurants: steakhouse, Italian, sushi, French, and each one has a fixed number of tables. If you want to eat at the steakhouse on formal night, and formal night is 3 days from now, you are competing with every other passenger who had the same idea. By the time you finish unpacking, half the tables are gone. By the time you finish dinner, the restaurant is fully booked for the entire cruise. The same is true for the spa. Massage appointments, facial appointments, even salon appointments for formal night, these fill within hours of embarkation. Shore excursions are worse. The ship is docked in port for 6 or 8 hours, and the popular tours sell out before the ship even leaves the first port. The booking window opens when you board, not when you unpack, not when you finish lunch. The moment your SeaPass card is activated and you step onto the ship, you can open the app or walk to the guest services kiosk and start reserving. If you want the steakhouse on formal night, book it now. If you want a massage on your sea day, book it now. If you want the shore excursion everyone is talking about, book it now. Open the app while you are still standing in your cabin. Walk to the guest services kiosk on your way to lunch. Do it within the first 2 hours and you will get what you wanted. Do it after dinner and you will spend the rest of the cruise wishing you had acted faster. The difference between passengers who board prepared and passengers who board frantic is visible from the moment they step off the gangway. I stood at the guest services desk for 26 years, and I could tell within 30 seconds of watching someone walk onto the ship whether they were going to have a smooth cruise or whether I would be seeing them in my office 3 times before we reached the first port. The passengers who board prepared move differently. They have their documents in hand before they reach the counter. They completed online check-in 30 days ago. They know their arrival window, and they arrived during it. They receive their SeaPass card, they thank the agent, and they walk toward the ship without confusion or hesitation. The passengers who board frantic are the ones still holding their phone up to the agent, trying to find the email with their boarding pass. They brought a driver's license instead of a passport, and now they are being told they need additional documentation. They missed online check-in and are filling out forms by hand at the counter. They arrived 2 hours before their window opened and spent that time standing in the heat, frustrated. Guest services watches all of this. The passengers who struggle on embarkation day are the same passengers who will struggle all week. The confusion does not stop at the gangway. It follows them onto the ship. When a passenger who boarded smoothly approaches the desk with a problem, the interaction is different. They are calm. They explain the issue clearly. They have their SeaPass card in hand. They know their cabin number, and they have already checked whether the problem might be something they can solve on their own before asking for help. The crew responds to that. When a passenger who boarded frantic approaches the desk, the interaction is harder. They are already frustrated. They do not have their card. They do not know their cabin number. They interrupt the agent before the agent has finished asking the first question. The passengers who board prepared do not ask for special treatment. They do not need it. They read the emails. They completed the forms. They arrived when they were supposed to arrive. They checked their cabin the moment they walked in and reported the broken outlet before it became a week-long inconvenience. They booked their dining reservations in the first 2 hours instead of waiting until day 4 and then complaining that nothing is available. This is not about being perfect. It is about being prepared. The crew is not expecting you to know the ship the way we do. We are expecting you to have read the information the cruise line sent you, to have brought the documents you were told to bring, and to have completed the online check-in process that was designed to make your boarding experience faster. The first impression you make when you board does not fade. It follows you. The crew remembers the passengers who made their jobs harder. We also remember the passengers who made their jobs easier. You do not get a second chance to board. You get one embarkation day, and how you handle it determines how the rest of the cruise unfolds. I want to hear from you. What boarding mistake did you make that you will never make again? Leave it in the comments below, because the people reading this need to know what to avoid. Next week, I am going to walk you through the shore excursion traps that cost people hundreds of dollars they did not need to spend. It is the natural next step after today. If you board the ship with your documents ready, your carry-on packed correctly, and your reservations made in the first 2 hours, you are already ahead of most passengers. Those 27 tips are what separate passengers who board smoothly from passengers who spend embarkation day frustrated. Complete online check-in 30 days before departure. Arrive during your assigned window. Pack your medications and swimsuit in your carry-on. Check your cabin the moment you walk in. Walk the ship in the first hour. Book your specialty dining and shore excursions within the first 2 hours. Do those 6 things, and boarding day becomes the start of your cruise instead of a bottleneck you have to fight through.